I would just egg it on. I would just say random, like a random number in an interview, and then let
Just end the
people.
interview with 4. Hello and welcome to another Dead Pixel, a podcast about games, movies, entertainment, life, everything in between. My name's Joe, and I'll be your host today for episode 30. And with me, the man who, as a young child, summoned an evil purple dinosaur with a chalkboard and a recorder. Nick. Hey, Nick. How did you summon Barney?
You have to. Have you ever heard of adrenochrome?
No.
Uh,
Do explain.
Adrenochrome is it's what little children produce whenever you scare them very very badly. So you have to scare them very badly, and then you have to. There's a gruesome process of extracting it, but that's basically what you have to do in order to get adrenochrome. Without this is YouTube, so I don't want to go too far into
So
it.
you just made a bunch of little kids pee themselves. That's
It
how you did. Okay.
it's definitely more involved than that. And it's not really something that I like to talk about a lot, but I was young and I needed the money, so there was a lot of people who were very invested in getting Barney into our realm, and I did what I had to do to put food on the table.
All right. Well, the U.S. military sure loved your involvement with the famous torturing of making people listen to "I Love You"
That's
again and
right.
again.
It's the U.S. military that made me do that. That's right.
Yeah, we'll go with "Made You." Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Under the
Anyways,
Clinton
yeah, how have
administration.
you been? How's your Halloween?
Good. I didn't do anything for Halloween. As far as Halloween goes, I went up to Dallas and hung out with my brother, and we went to tailgate at the Dallas, or rather the Cowboys Bears game. So I know that you love the Chicago Bears through and through with all your heart and soul, and I just got to watch the Cowboys crush and destroy them. So I hope that makes you feel good in your heart.
It's okay, man. I was born and indoctrinated into the Packers, so no matter how bad they suck, I
I
genetically
for,
have to go for the Packers.
I forgot about
So
that, man. You must hate the Bears then.
it's one of those things that like Packer fan, but then I have to like slap a different thing on my car. Like there's Packers, but then I'll have to have like the Blackhawks or something. Like, yeah, man, don't keep my car.
Yeah, you've got to. I mean, you got to protect your property because, like, I wouldn't want to be a Packers fan in Chicago. That sounds like a dangerous game to play. But
Yeah,
yeah. Anyway, so I had a good time. How was your Halloween?
it was all right. Our little town had an event over the weekend where the small businesses dished out candy and stuff. So we got to, take the kids out for that, and then actual Halloween day, my employer actually let us leave early because trick or treating stops at like 7, and it gets dark by 6. So by the time you get home, it's already dark, and then you have like 1 hour to trick or treat in the dark. So yeah, they let us leave early so we can go ahead and yeah, spend some daylight with the kids. And my neighborhood actually got really bumping. It was actually pre-COVID. There was like no one. You get like 10 kids, maybe a max, come to your door. And then I guess due to COVID and people relocating, we have a lot more kids in the neighborhood, and a lot of parents were like, "Yeah, for like, you want a shot?" Like, sure. So
So
we picked
that's
up
how
quite
this
a few
part is gonna
shots, and
be.
then they're like, "Yeah, you want a bottle of beer?" I'm like, "Sure." So stroller and beers in hand. Uh,
That's awesome, man.
uh, yeah.
Stroller, and beer. I will say too. A little bit of a PSA. Today during lunch at work, I went out, and I voted. I voted early. Joe, have you voted?
Nope, not yet. It's one of those things that I'll have to make the time to. It's like I wanted to do the remote ballot or whatever, vote, mail in. But uh, yeah, usually I would go the day of, essentially, because that's when like it can be like, hey, employer at the time, this is my right, and I'm going to use it right now.
That's actually pretty good. The last election, something we had some kind of special election I think last year, around or in December, and I went on the day. I didn't early vote or anything like that. I went on the day, and I had to wait a long time. And I was planning to just do that again this year, but then I was like, why don't I just try to go early? I did, and it was very quick. I was very glad. I had to wait for like 30 seconds, but I was the only one waiting, and then somebody opened up and got right in there. I
No,
just
we tried doing that last time with the presidential elections, and we're like, it was madness going early. In fact, the first couple times we're like, and we're just going to leave now. We are not going to wait this long. And it's also pretty difficult because you have to find time to do something, like with the kids. So it's not like I can just, well, I could just leave them in the car, but that's it's frowned upon.
in
So
in Chicago in November. Yeah, that's definitely going to be a warm environment. Yeah, but so anyway, I was just gonna say, if you're listening to this podcast and you haven't voted yet, and it's before November 8th, go vote. Um, it's important. Vote hard. Yeah, that's all I gotta say.
all right, that's good. Good enough for everyone.
Joe, do you
uh,
think people should vote?
it's they should if they want to complain, because therefore they can either complain that they made the right decision or the wrong one, and if they don't know enough, well, that's their own damn fault.
That's kind of that's
So
kind of what I think too. Like I'm kind of like maybe some people shouldn't vote, but I know that the people that shouldn't vote really probably won't vote. So I just kind of think about it that way, and I think more people should just get involved. But it's because it's like if you're thinking about voting, it's like, well, should I look up stuff? And you're gonna look up stuff, and you're gonna be more aware. So like telling people to vote to me is like telling people to pay attention rather than
yeah,
like
pay
just vote.
attention, but also be careful because a little bit of knowledge uh, goes wrong real quickly, like WebMD. So on that note, let's get into the news.
All right, that sounds good to me. Do you want me to go? You may say what I have to say.
Yeah, sure. All right. So what are some of the things you got?
So, the biggest news from the news gods that came down from on high, because there really wasn't a whole lot this time around. But what we do have as of today, November 3rd, AMD has just announced they did their presentation on the Radeon RX 79 XTX and 7900 XT. I know I said some of those words wrong, but you get the picture. The 7000 series for the AMD Radeons. I don't have all the information on this because I kind of woke up from my nap and saw that it had been announced, and I was trying to look it up and I didn't have enough time to finish up with all that. But I did see the price and the release date. So I'll just say that real quick, and then you can tell me what you know about all this stuff. Um, so the RX 7900 XTX is going to be the bigger card, and that's going to be right at $1,000. The 7900 XT, that's 1x less than the other one, is a little bit weaker card, and it's going to be right at $900. And they are planned to release December 13th, 2022. So not too long to wait. But as far as like how good these cards are and stuff, I don't know yet. I was wondering if you could touch on that a little bit.
All right. Yeah, like I said, this just went live like a few hours ago. So of the time of this recording, and we ended up, from what I've gathered, uh, the 7900 XTX is their flagship model, and it's one of those things that it's all numbers in a row. It's like it is not going to be as good as the 4090. I mean, there might be there's some cases where the AMD cards run better, but as a whole, the if you want just pure power, like then it looks like anyways the 4090 will still be that. But yeah, you're also paying 1600, I believe, for the 4090, opposed to the 1000 for the MSRP of the 7900 XTX. And also, one of the big things is uh, you have the same memory size for both, so it's going to be 24 gigs, and they're both running DDR-X or DDR6X, I believe. Um, and I'm going to kick myself if I'm wrong for that one. But it's about 100 watts less in power consumption for the Radeon card. So you're looking at, I think it's 355 opposed to 450. So 95-watt difference. And that's a huge amount, especially for those who don't necessarily want all that power consumption. But, essentially, the 4090 is just pure power for, power's sake, and, everything be damned. So that's kind of, you get what you pay for. But if you want, watt per, like best value per dollar, then you're looking at uh, Radeon's probably going to give you a pretty good value proposition. But from the numbers they showed, they only compared with themselves. They didn't compare it to any NVIDIA cards out there.
Oh,
So the slideshow, well, it's nice to at least compare it for, when you're looking at the 6000, models and stuff like that. But it looks like there's not going to be the uplift in ray tracing isn't necessarily what people wanted to see, because I was thinking, if I remember correct, it was showing like 1.5 to 1.7 times better than the previous gen, which is good, but nowhere near, like, if you look at the 4090 in comparison to like the 3090 Ti, it's just uh, it's leaps and bounds better.
oh,
So
okay.
and then also a lot of the Radeon numbers are slightly skewed because you're running FRS, um, which is uh, it's their upscaler kind of compatibility with that. And but overall, it is a solid card for a solid price, and it's going to be really hard to argue that, because you're like, well, oh, it's a weaker card, yeah, but it's priced way better. So, and I still think it's going to run anything you want, pretty much. With the lack of ray tracing chops, everything else should be more or less pretty suitably fine. But we'll see when it comes out, because who knows? And plus, when you get the partner cards that come out, they can tweak those to their heart's content. The big thing about this one too is it's running a chiplet design, meaning that it's kind of running like their current series of CPUs. So it's just it's actually fabricated a little bit different, and it should the hope is it makes it easier to make, lowering the cost, and hopefully, and the performance we'll see how the performance really pans out, because it's the first time they've done that with a GPU. So yeah, it's exciting. It really is. It was just like I was glad I was able to look it up beforehand, and we'll see come was it December 13th?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
I was kind of looking at the Gamers Nexus video that they released a few hours ago. I didn't get to watch all of it, but it kind of looking at it, they did kind of mention too that the presentation started talking about like 8K stuff or something like that,
it's
and
because of the display port. So they are updating the display port to 2.1 opposed to the 1.4, which is standard, which then gives it the bandwidth, not the full bandwidth of 2.1, but it'll at least get you, so it's starting to lean towards that. But no monitors have that capability yet. That's supposed to be targeting early 2023 is when the first monitors will come out with the display port 2.1, so that can theoretically use that bandwidth.
okay. Yeah, yeah. So anyway, they were talking about it on Gamers Nexus, just that like it was kind of a dumb thing to start talking about like 8K. It's
Yeah.
like technically possible, but it's like you wouldn't actually want to do that on this. So it's sort of silly, just like stepping on their own tails there. But I mean, we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to let some people get their hands on this, hopefully before December 18th. But I mean, between this and the Nvidia cards, like I'm probably gonna go with this. If I can buy any card, I'll probably go with this card because it's so much cheaper. I mean, for like the Nvidia cards are just insane. They're just like $1,200 for some of the weaker cards and 1,600 for the 4090. And it's like,
Yeah, I believe it was the 4080 that's priced at 1200, and so this is almost targeting that as far as price point. But it also has, like I said, it's a fair price. It has the high enough memory size, so the cores are the only thing that's really lacking, or in theory, but it's once again, it's a lot of it's marketing. It
I mean,
it's a lot,
I just needed to be able to play games at 4K 60 FPS. Like that's like my baseline for what I'm looking for. And for $1,000, if it can do that, then that's what I'm after. For the most part, like if it can do better, that's what I prefer. But I mean, like that's where I'm at. And then everything else, that should be the most intensive thing that I do with it. Some video editing can be pretty intensive, and so I want a card that can handle that better than my current card because that struggles now. But it's doable. But I just want something that can handle it better. So I mean, like this to me is about what I was expecting, um, and it's the right price point I think because like the AMD or the Nvidia cards, they're just man, they're just so expensive. But I don't know. I guess do you think that the performance is gonna be worth it, or do you think that there is like there's like a use case for, hey, 1,600 for the 4090 is a better deal if you're going for if there's certain I don't know if there's some kind of world
there's a
that
practical use case, and that is if you are like a graphic designer, if you're using systems like Blender or something, if you're doing 3D modeling, if you're an actual, that kind of concept, that's what you're going to use it for. And that's where it'll pull away essentially, as far as you'd want one over the other.
it's raw
The other
power.
bit is if you're fanboy, then yeah, you're gonna want to go with stick with what you're what you with you what you like. They're always gonna be there. Uh, but at the same time, there are a couple features that NVIDIA will have. They have the uh, DLSS 3 that's coming out, and uh, that is only on the new 4000 series cards. And that's when they show you like how um, Cyberpunk goes from low frame rate to a high frame rate, and it's because it's using that. It's like, okay, that's some neat stuff, but as a whole, the average person isn't going to need it. Plus, that card's just overkill. It's mostly a bragging rights issue. Like at this point, you're like, yeah, if you're any major influencer, if you're doing any tech channel, yeah, you're gonna want it because it's your showcase. Plus if you're buying it out of pocket and you actually make a living,
Yeah,
as
you
an
can write it
influencer of some
off.
sort, exactly, you're gonna try to write that off. You're gonna be like, hey, here it is. So,
And also, I
and
mean, for that, you don't want any excuses. Like if you have even like 1,000 people, even like a couple hundred people who are watching you every night, you don't want any excuses for why a game didn't work, what didn't something didn't perform as well as it could reasonably. I mean, I guess you get some titans in there to really make sure everything performs perfectly. But yeah, like you're gonna want the highest end card if you're making a living off of it.
yeah, and that's once again, it's honestly, for the most people, especially with the prices going down, you can still get the flagship models of last gen, so you can get the 3090 Ti, and that's still overkill for the average person. It depends on, but it depends on what kind of lifestyle. Because if you're going to be buying the newest OLED TV, then you'll probably have the money to burn to buy the 4090. And that's just, and plus you're probably not even thinking about anything else because you're like, yeah, it doesn't matter. This is what I want, and so be it. That's for you. But if you're going to try to build a more budget-friendly PC that can still play anything under the sun, uh, and you don't necessarily care if it's on ultra settings, you don't mind it being on high settings. and still running super buttery smooth, then yeah, this is more in line with that.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that's probably the place that I want to be because you can be at the tippy top for a few weeks or a few months, but eventually there's gonna be another card, and you're gonna how much money you're gonna spend to stay at the top for that long, you know.
now, one of the things that made me go with the 3080 or the 3000 series opposed to 6000 series cards from Radeon was I did like the features like NVIDIA Broadcast. I do like, that suite of features, and that's one of the reasons why I went with NVIDIA. And I do like the fact that, for me, I was finally putting big money down, and so I kind of didn't care because I was willing to dish it out. Um, and that's why I wanted something with the good visuals, ray tracing, and so forth. And I had gotten myself a relatively new 4K TV. I mean, it's old and it's inadequate to today's standards, but that's at the time it was great. And I wanted something to play like Simulator at 4K, so that's why I went with the 3080. So
Yeah, because it can handle it. Yeah. Speaking of TVs, the C2 is getting some pretty good discounts. So I'm thinking really hard about grabbing one of those. Um,
the question is, what's the difference between the C2 and the C2 Evo? Because I just saw the Evo been popping up more often. Okay, there you go. Now you have something else to worry about.
I don't
There's
know.
a C2 Evo.
I was just looking around, and the C2 was winning. Maybe it was the Evo or something, but the C2 was winning a lot of rewards for like best TV of the season or whatever. And the 65-inch came down to somewhat more reasonable price. Not to talk about TVs forever, but it's at 1,700 right now most places. So that's after taxes that's going to be like 1850 or 19 somewhere in there. So that's doable. That's doable. It's a lot, but it's doable. And dadgummit, I need a 4K TV, and I think I'm gonna have to do it because otherwise I'm just gonna be waiting. Because it's gonna go back up after Christmas. So I mean maybe it won't, but I think it'll go back up after Christmas after the holidays.
I mean, come Black Friday, that's the time to pounce on anything if you want it now.
Yeah, because
Either that
that's
or wait till Memorial Day.
yeah, I'll be waiting at least until Memorial Day, if not till next Black Friday, and then we'll be in the same boat again. So I need to jump on it, especially with some of these games coming out. But we'll see between this and the Radeon card. I wanted to wait and see what Radeon was going to have to make a informed decision about which way to go. Again, the card's gonna be so much more useful, but so many choices. Anyway, so I mean that's pretty much all I had to say about these cards. But I mean, really, $100 difference for the XT and the XTX. Um, is there really a reason why you would go for the cheaper card? I mean, if you're already spending 900, is $100 more really going to make that much of a difference to you? I mean,
They
is
didn't actually talk a lot about the information about the 79 XT. So I actually don't, it's kind of hard to say. Uh, Now, honestly, yeah, once again, like, yeah, you hit a certain threshold of price and you're like, well, what's an extra 10%, or
yeah, I
something
mean,
like that. So,
if I get like 20% more, or if I get 11% more power for 10% more price, like I just don't understand like why they're so close together. It seems like who's gonna buy the XT? It seems weird to me, but I don't know. I guess we'll
yeah,
find
I
out
mean,
as
those
time goes
those
on.
who, there are people on a tight enough budget where it's just, that little bit will make a difference.
I mean, I
Surprisingly
know they
enough, like
exist.
you push it as far as you can go, and if you can stretch it there, that's fine. But sometimes you need to know when not to overreach, right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it just seems
I mean,
like AMD might have come into like a little bit of a no man's land where they're like, well, we need to put it out, and these need to be the specs, and just the price. We just can't really push the XTX to 1100 because then we'll be kind of competing a little bit too closely with Nvidia. I'm sure there's some kind of Goldilocks situations that they've fallen into.
Well, the XTX can't be too high for a couple of reasons. One of which is pretty much that ray tracing performance. I mean, you can't justify a certain, they by keeping it down, you make it more entertaining and more a value prospect for the average consumer. Uh, that sticker shock is real, right? It's like, well, if I'm going to be sitting by two different flagships, looking at it, like, is this one really $600 more better?
Oh,
Like
better.
that is
Yeah.
it is 60% more. Do I get 60% more performance? It's like that's what you're looking at. You're like, can you justify that? Also, at the same time, you know, you can't. Radeon can't necessarily say this is comparable to the 4090. We are comparing it to the 4090 because it's their flagship. You're looking at the XTX versus the 4090. Their top end models they're having, but in reality, it's probably a closer fit to the 3080.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
so that
that's where I would be like really trying to compare it. As far as like what I would actually buy, because I probably wouldn't buy the 4090. I wasn't thinking about buying the 4090, but yeah, you're right. The closer comparison is probably the 4080 and the XTX. And if but I mean, like, if the XTX is a little bit better than or even the same as the 4080, then you're still getting a much better price for power. Comparison
yep,
there.
you're saving $200. Like I said, and then it depends on whatever bespoke features or whatever that one has over the other, and then you can really start splitting hairs at that point.
That's true.
But like I said, it's very easy to compare the top end flagships to one another, and there isn't a comparison per se. It's yeah, it's so that's all there is to it. It's like, AMD has always been a good value proposition for the most people, um, and if you want to pay for it, Nvidia has the power that you're seeking.
Yeah.
And that's really it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So
all right.
so I think I'm gonna try it out, and then because I never had an Nvidia card, but I did have some problems with building this PC, so I'm kind of wondering about that. But I'm gonna try it out, I think, and I'll let you know how it goes.
Okay. Yeah, for sure, man. So December 13th, you're gonna wait in line.
Maybe, definitely maybe.
You gotta vlog that shit, right? So all right,
Do it for the podcast.
live on the streets. A reporter, Nick.
I'm right there.
All right, cool. All right. So what else you got for us?
Yeah. So there was another thing. All the rest of this news is a little bit kind of different. We're gonna get into the video game stuff. So Square Enix, they had a kind of a, I don't know what you'd really call it. They had some kind of it wasn't really an AR game or anything. It wasn't. It was sort of just this mysterious advertisement, um, where they used the word symbiogenesis, or maybe they used some other word. Regardless, it got some people riled up. It woke the Parasite Eve fan base, which if you're not familiar, Parasite Eve was a horror RPG that came out on the PS1 back in the 90s. It has a kind of a cult following for it, and people were getting excited. They were thinking, they're gonna remake Parasite Eve because some of the words that they used in this. Regardless, Square Enix finally revealed what they were talking about in sort of a lackluster way. So I'm kind of wondering if they saw people thinking this was one thing and they needed to go ahead and dispel that, because it seems like an announcement without much fanfare. Anyway, this thing is called Symbiogenesis, and it is an NFT game where people can do stuff in the game and gain NFT art, and stuff like that. So anyway, people, when they found out about this, that it was not Parasite Eve, anything to do with Parasite Eve, really, they were not happy. and some people on Twitter. I mean, a lot of people on Twitter were just like blah blah blah. So anyway, that's kind of just some of the stuff that's going on. But Square Enix does seem like they have kind of jumped into the NFT game wholeheartedly, or somewhat wholeheartedly, and it's, I don't know. To me, it's too late. Like that.
Oh, it's way too late. It's very Japanese in the sense that the old curmudgeon man on top, like, what's this NFTs these kids been talking about? And like, Grandpa, that's literally so last year, but okay,
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
NFTs are such a an interesting prospect for companies. I see why they were immediately attracted by them, because like we can give them literally nothing, or literally a piece of art, JPEG, and make money off of it. And it's just like, I mean, art is literally like, I mean, companies like shit out art constantly,
So
all the
I'm
time.
curious how I don't know anything about the NFT market in Japan, but I can also see this going like being very big in Japan because certain things when it comes to collectibles, the whole gotcha system, that's bread and butter over there. They make lots of money off all that stuff, and this can totally be in that same vein. So while we all scoff at it, possibly the numbers can show that, hey, this is going to make gangbusters in Japan, and that's all we needed to do. We don't need it to make it, big in the rest of the world. Yeah, we'll get some suckers out there, but for the most part, we're only fishing in our small pond.
I,
So
I mean, you bring up a good point where like Japan is pretty well known for having collectibles of any type of thing you could possibly think of. And NFTs would be the digital version of that. I don't know. Like, I think if a company could, I don't know, man. I think if you could make an NFT and make it stick long enough, there's just no way to like that. There's just no way to actually create scarcity. Like if you print a book, like you print an art book with a game and it comes out, and then 10 years later, like no one wants to make that art book again. Technically, it's possible, but no one's going to do it. Then that creates value because of the scarcity of the thing that people want and enjoy. And it's a physical thing that you can physically move and sell. But with an NFT, you can just copy it because it's just a JPEG.
it's numbered, son. That makes the world of difference. Everyone knows that. Without it having that serial number on it, that's all that matters. No, it's you and I are in the same boat. NFTs are silly. I'm
It's
not gonna beat this dead horse anymore. We're gonna bore everyone to death about this.
I think
So,
that is the right move. I think that's 100% the right move.
all right, what else you got for us?
Next up, the Modern Warfare 2 composer, she quit. I think it's a she. Um, Her name was, Sarah Schochner. Schachner. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong, but she quit working on Modern Warfare 2. She said that I can no longer continue to compose music for Modern Warfare 2. Over the past couple of months, the working dynamic with the audio director has become increasingly challenging, and I don't see any path forward. As of now, I'm unsure of the status release plan. It's been taken out of my hands. And she said something in here that was a little bit more interesting. Okay, yeah. While I don't have any control over how the music is presented in game, what will be released on the soundtrack is not my artistic intent in regards to mixing and mastering. And she says some other stuff here or there, but that was kind of the main thing. It was not to my artistic intent. So like this caught my eye because like I thought it was a very strange way to quit. A way that seems to be becoming more common. I just don't think this way of quitting is very smart. Like if like it just sounds horrible. It's like you're not alleging anything. You're just saying that you don't like working with the person anymore because of some reason that you're not going to say. Like, I just feel like this hurts your prospect of getting another job. Maybe not the very next job, but like the one after that. It's like, I mean, like you're not supposed to crap on the company that you just worked for. Like
Yeah,
that's
but it's one of those things that I understand. I can see both points of this. You shouldn't most definitely drag the company that you were in beforehand through the mud. But at the same time, the company we're talking about here, the only thing is, it's like, man, I really hope like a couple months down the road, I don't hear about like this other allegations popping up, post this, because that could also be the most quiet and polite way to leave, being like differences of work opinion, and I'm not going to try to really bring up a lawsuit or something like that, because it would be a shame if that's the reason they left. Um, but at the
yeah.
same time, you're also looking at it like maybe that person's just a monster to work with. Who knows? And or maybe they're about to get thrown under the bus, being like, "Hey, all this is your fault." And they're like, "You know what? The only way to step away from this is if I come out first and I'm leaving the project." But at the same time, I'm throwing down the groundwork, saying, "Hey, uh, I'm the one who had the problem here." And that way, when they, if when the push comes to shove, they can't say, "Hey, it was this person all along." It's like because you're still working for them.
Because you've
Uh, so
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like
so
that's
he,
probably the best. That's probably the best scenario that makes the most sense for her to be in the, I guess, in the right here or whatever. Because
to proactively get out and more or less wash your hands of it first, before if something else is going to happen. In theory, but once again, who knows? I just hope that there's nothing more malicious or malevolent in the background. So,
well, I mean, if
because
there is, it's like you've got to go to the law. If you don't talk about it, just go to the justice system and start getting that worked on, because anything you say, outside of that can severely hurt your chances of being able to make the justice system work for you. But yeah, I think you're probably right. Like, there's probably going to be some blame that's going to get tossed around for this or that, something or other, either in the company or outside of the company. And it sounds like she wants to make a public statement where she's like, I'm going to go ahead and say my piece first, allude to it first, so that nobody can come behind me and say, oh, it was her, blah blah all the time. So that actually does make the most sense. But it just seemed kind of weird. And like you said, yeah, like this might be the canary in the coal mine for something else that's going to happen, because it is Activision. So, anyway, but
we did make predictions about who what company would be on the most fire this the following year. So,
yeah, this
uh,
does count toward that. But they've actually they've actually done better than I thought they would have. But maybe I'm just not really paying attention. Anyway,
all right. So what else you got for us?
one more sort of major story. Hideo Kojima went on a podcast with Jeff Keighley, whatever Jeff Keighley's, I think it's Jeff Keighley's podcast. He went on there and talked about a bunch of stuff, but he addressed the conspiracy theories that surround him with a game called Abandoned. This is a game that's being worked on by the Blue Box Studio, which I think they're the same guys that are doing the Silent Hill remake. Is that right?
No, a blooper.
Blooper, never mind. Well, anyway, um, this is a game being developed by Blue Box, and there was some things that led people to believe that Hideo Kojima is actually working on this game in conjunction with them, or some kind of weird, crazy, shell corporation game is being made in order to create this game. Anyway, he went on this podcast and he kind of addressed that. And he said, like, I have created a shell corporation before in order to market for the Metal Gear games, but I wouldn't do that again. And he said he gets deep fakes and like weird audio stuff from people. He said he gets like 20 a week on Twitter, and it's just annoying to him. So I think he wants people to stop. But I just thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, that well, how do you say it? He's done enough in his career all about faking out and making or like putting people through the ringer, making them think one thing and surprise, pull the wool out from your eyes and it was this all along. He's like the M Night of the gaming world.
Yeah, he is definitely. I mean, he's definitely earned that reputation. And
But I think this might have been under his own podcast, like because I know he created his own podcast, Brain Structure. Uh, I
that,
mean,
oh,
I
that
remember
is
it was
it. Yeah,
announced a while ago.
yeah, that's
So
it. You're right.
okay.
It's sorry. Yeah. So
So
speaking on a Spotify podcast, Brain Structure, and then he brought Jeff Keighley on. Okay. So that's kind of weird. I figured he would have addressed it earlier. I guess that's what I had in my mind. He would have addressed it earlier if he had his own podcast. Thought he was doing other stuff. Or
it's only a handful of episodes in from what I remember. It's like it should have just been started not that long ago.
okay,
So but yeah, it's neat that he's talking about weird things like that. Um, but yeah, it must suck to get that kind of uh fan mail as it were, because a lot of people really love his stuff and a lot of people take him a little too serious, I guess.
dude. I mean,
Um,
if I were him and I were in that predicament, I would just egg it on. I would just say random like a random number in an interview, and then let
just end the
people
interview with 4 and
for
then just and then just leave it, just let it like trail off, and everyone's like, what was that? And then the next episode just be like 12. And then after enough episodes, someone's gonna be like, "Well, if you turn it into the Greek letters, and then you like,
no,
and you
it's
spell it backwards, it's just
it's like numerology, and you're like saying like penguin and giraffe at the beginning, and all kinds of stuff, man. Yeah, that's what I would do. I would just lead into it and just let the conspirators like go at it. Man, I would have a lot of fun with that, but I guess it'd probably blow up a lot more anyway. So that was kind of a fun little dumb story. That's pretty much it for the news. They announced the Witcher 4 director. And then God of War Ragnarok's getting rave reviews, which I'm a bit dubious about, but we'll see. That comes out later this month, right?
I believe so. I know they've already started doing releasing Digital Foundry did a PS5 review over that, and I'm really curious about it, but I kind of don't want to play it until I can play it on PC because I played the previous one PS4. Really loved it, but I feel like the PS4 version is just something about it's just going to be not as good.
Well,
It's this is more clearly for the PS5,
I did
so
I did read, yes, it's more clear for the PS5. I did read, like, no spoilers, but I did read that it will run on the PS4. It's just gonna make the PS4 sound like a jet engine. I mean, I know it already does, but it's gonna. They said it's gonna like really send it into overdrive. So a PS4 Pro would be probably the weakest system I would try to play it on. Do you know? Have they said when they're gonna try to get this out on PC?
I haven't even bothered paying attention, to be honest.
I would assume
It
it'd be
is one
like
of
a
those things
year,
that
right?
yeah, it's usually it's like Sony's been getting better about it, but
Yeah.
I was just assuming that it was going to be 6 months to a year out.
Man,
You
six
know,
months would be fast. For this game, I feel like that'd be really fast.
a lot of games are being built on PC already, and like now that they're already taking a PC centric, like focus, it's no longer being like, hey, now let's convert this PS4 PS5 game to PC. It's like, hey, we already know this is coming to the PC, so we can already kind of do whatever prep work we need to get it to make it a smoother transition. That's what I'm looking at. I can see them, a year at the most, I'd think so.
Yeah, I think about a year. You're right. Like, I mean, we've all already known that they're building all these on PCs, and it's just a matter of it's just a matter of marketing and controlling the money flow, which is why they keep them on consoles for as long as they do. But yeah, it probably will shift over. You probably don't have all that long to wait. I would say, yeah, 6 months to a year, somewhere in there, just in time for next holiday season, I'm sure. Yeah, so that's it. But So that's it for the news, man.
All right. Oh, that's honestly, luckily for us, AMD had got to take most of that brunt of that news section.
Yeah, yeah. I'll count your lucky stars.
All right. Well, I guess I'll go over what I've been playing. So recently, uh, Game Pass had gotten to drop the new Persona, or the new Persona 5 finally came out for the Royale version, and I was been able to play that on my phone. So I've been doing that on the streaming cloud service, just using normal phone bandwidth, and it hasn't been that bad. I mean, I'm playing it with the virtual controllers, and that's probably the worst part about it.
Yeah.
Not as precise movements as I would like it, just roaming the world. But honestly,
I mean,
not as buggy as I was expecting it, or has been in the past, I should say.
it seems like a game that would be a really good option for that because as far as I know, it's not really actiony. There's not really quick timed
Uh,
controls, is there?
during the story bits, it's perfect for that. It's like you literally, the dialogue sequences and everything. Like, yeah, it's just working precisely. Just hit one button, confirm, every now and then choose between some dialogue options, and then the combat turn based. So yeah, it's honestly pretty awesome. It looks really good, and the only thing I found is occasionally you get some stutters or hiccups in the sequences, and sometimes sound can be a little bit laggy just by a fraction of a second. So cutscene, you'll see someone get hit, and then you'll hear just a slight delay, and you're like, okay, that's kind of it's enough to be annoying, but not a deal breaker.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, like, have you ever thought about getting those like phone controllers that like wrap around your phone and plug in on the side?
yeah, I thought about, or just the attachment that hooks to your like Xbox or PlayStation controller that have the cradle, and then you pop in the phone. I thought about buying those. I'm not necessarily convinced that this is the way I want to continue in the future, but uh,
Well, I mean,
it might be.
I was just wondering because
Oh,
you
go on.
do seem to play the cloud versions a little bit more, because that's
I'm really interested in seeing how it comes along because I haven't done it since shoot, I can't remember the name of the game now, but I haven't done it for a few months now, and it's more like it's a fascination. I want to see how much it comes along because when you hear about it with uh with the Switch, with games like Kingdom Hearts and stuff, you just hear like horror stories. So I always like to see how that comes along with the Xbox. I know other companies have had um better success with some of the other tech, but for me it's just like this is all I have, and I'm kind of curious to see about that when it comes to streaming. It's gotten better in my opinion, or at least this game has is better than some of the other ones I've played, and uh, it's one of those things that I don't have a lot of time during the day, and sometimes during lunch or something like that, I just want to like quick take my mind off something, decompress, and it's fun to for 45 minutes or something, just jump into a game quick, play it, and just come back to it later. So I think it's nice that it's a nice feature that it's there. Does it work perfectly? No, but I'm also really not expecting that. It also gets me excited to see where tech will go in the future. So that's kind of what it is. Is like as far as Persona 5 as a whole goes, this game I played a little bit of the original 5 when it first came out, and then it got shelved for a while. I forget, just other games, other things in life. And then what happened was they announced the Royal coming out on the same generation of console. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So I kind of went, well, what's the point of me finishing Persona 5 if I'm not going to even be able to transfer data or anything like that, and I'll have to restart from scratch with Royal. And so I just kind of never finished Persona 5. Uh,
yeah. So
I'm not going to finish this, to be honest, either, because I don't have that much time in my life anymore. That was, the amount of time it would take me to play through that game,
I
but it's
mean,
still a fun game.
did you know when you started Persona 5 for the first time how many hours it's
Oh yeah,
expected to finish, or expected to take? I mean, I feel like Persona 4 Golden, I beat that. I got the true ending or whatever, and I don't feel like it was 100 hours. I feel like it was like you know, 70 or 80. Is that, am I just not remembering that right?
Did you actually get the true ending?
Yeah, I got the true ending.
Okay, because I remember you gave up on that game after a
Well,
while. That
I didn't get all the endings, but I got the good. Maybe I just got the good ending. I think the true ending was like 50 million.
because
Is that the final, last, very last possible thing to do, and you have to complete every other thing?
you don't have to do it. You don't have to do everything to get it, but it is generally an easier way to the easiest way to do it is to play once through and then do a new game plus to get the true ending. Um,
No, I mean
and
I got the. I guess I got a dissatisfactory. No, I could have sworn I got the good ending. I don't know. I don't know what I got.
I don't want to spoil it for those who haven't played it. It's still my favorite. It's still my favorite Persona as a whole. I think Persona 3 is probably the best Persona, but I think Persona 4 it's the most fun I've had with a Persona. I'll just leave it at that. Because Persona 1 and 2 and the other two, because there's two different versions of 2. Those are unique and especially of a time, but I think those are really hard to go back to and they're kind of depressing. Um,
Yeah, they're all kind of
so
weird. I've
uh,
heard
Persona 3 was an awesome game,
that is like a
and
big step
if you have a
forward.
chance, play Persona 3 Portable. They updated the controls for a little bit for that one. That makes it a little bit more enjoyable. It doesn't have the extra ending stuff that the FES version did with the festival edition, but you can just YouTube that, and that's the best way to. So play if you have to play it. Play Persona 3 Portable. And that way you can just get the quality of life improvements essentially. um but yeah, Persona 4, I've played that game. I got the bad ending, but kind of on purpose because I wanted to do the new game plus and then have everything souped up. But I look like a crazy person with tabs open up on my tablet with all the like notes. I knew how to min max that game. I specifically didn't want to spoil it for myself, and I did that, charted it all myself.
Whoa,
And
that's crazy.
I did so much save scumming just to see alternate paths. I'm like, okay, so this is gonna be my optimum route in this game. That was
Yeah,
the last time I went head over heels for a game so like that hard. Like before that was maybe Mass Effect 1. So
yeah, that game was pretty amazing. I do want to play 5. But I look at the 100 hour count and I'm like, gosh dang it. So it did come out for Switch, and I think it'd be a good Switch game, but there's so much other stuff to play right now. So I don't think I'm gonna buy it, at least right now. But I will. Gosh, I do want to try it for a couple hours and see how much I like it, and see if it is something that I could even think about approaching trying to do. Um, I think I have a new philosophy on playing games, and as much as I can, I want to try to just bash through them, just play as many hours as it takes in order to get them finished without starting something else. Because there's so many things I leave on the back burner, and it's like, I mean, it's fine to like quit on a game, but like I don't want to quit and then come back to it. I want to quit it and be like, I know I don't want to play this game anymore. So I think that's gonna be my new philosophy. But Persona 5 Royale, man, it's gonna be that's a big one.
yeah, it's like they introduced some new character, some other fun stuff, but more or less it's I would have a hard time justifying playing if you played the Persona 5 to go ahead and play through Royale, unless if you just absolutely love it, which is then by all means. I mean, uh, I would say the same thing with like Golden, essentially Persona 4 Golden, but yeah, Persona 5 just it wasn't. I think everyone's first Persona, like major Persona game, is going to be their favorite, um, and that's why Persona 3 is still probably my favorite. But at the same time, Persona 4, like the Golden specifically, I just think it hit me at the right time. I hit and it was just like I fell for that one really hard. So that's why I think the characters are so much more likable
Dude,
than Persona 5.
dude, the
So
characters in Persona 4 Golden are like all timers, man. They are like all of them are just freaking great. Yeah, I mean, Chie is everyone's about Chie, but the other characters are all very likable, and they're just an all time cast.
yep, nope. Kanji's my boy. He's awesome as hell. He's funny. Totally worth if like when all I say is if you've played the game halfway through, get to the summer event, uh, and laugh your ass off, man. It's such a good little event. I save scum that part. I went through that so many times just to see all the other alternate bits, and it was hilarious. I think it was Troy Baker who did the voice of him on that one, and yeah, so totally. Persona 5 works pretty well streaming, but yeah, if you never got a chance to play it, for sure, if you have access to Game Pass or like the Switch now that it's on there, it's totally worth picking it up. It's a fun game for sure. All right, so what have you been playing, my man?
So I played a little bit of a game called Exapunks. It is a Zachtronics game. If you're not familiar with Zachtronics games, I'll try to do my best to describe what they are. They're games about like programming and electrical type stuff. Like you're basically building a system and then making it run. That seems to be the long and short of a lot of these Zachtronics games. Um, so this particular game, you are the premise is that you are a a programmer in the near future, like 2035, 2050, somewhere in there. And there is this disease called the phage that is sweeping through humanity. And they have medicine for it, but it is expensive and you are poor. And you used to be a hacker, but now you're not anymore. But now you need money, and there's no easy way for you to make money. So somebody contacts you on the internet and asks you. It's like this kind of cryptic lady program, and she uh, says, I can get you the medicine, I can get you the money for the medicine, but you got to do work for me. And so you kind of beat around the bush on that. And eventually you go, okay. And so you start doing some of the programming and stuff. It is, it's really hard, man. This game, I'm sure the other Zachtronics games maybe are harder or easier or whatever, but this Exapunks it's tough. But it is really satisfying. So they give you a manual and you have to kind of read. It's not a very long manual, and you kind of walk through it, and you kind of have to read this manual. And as you do, kind of each level in the tutorial, I think the game like breaks open later on, but the tutorial by itself is hard enough, and it's just a matter of like you have like a gosh, I can't think of all the coding terms, but basically you have a place where you write the code, and then you have a side monitor where you see the code that you've written in effect, and you have to get it to where like the programs always they need you to execute this action like 1,000 times. So you have to write the code so that it will execute the action on its own, where you can just hit run and it'll do it in like lightning speed. So putting this stuff together, like reading it, it's like, okay, I do this, I do that, okay, but and it's like I've said, it's complicated, but once you kind of get it a little bit, and you finally get the dang code to run and you pass the level, it's pretty satisfying because you're kind of realizing, okay, I read and I remembered and I learned, and then I was able to do it and watch it like work, and ching, it goes, and then they give you a little bit of story, after that. So, it's it's a kind of fun. It is fun in its own kind of way. Uh, but man, it's pretty hard. Have you ever played any of these electronics games?
I think they did. Was it Shenzhen?
That sounds about right. Yeah.
A- and there is like Opus Magnum, which the best way to explain how that looks is it looks like It's like a gem. It looks like one of those old gem eliminating puzzle games. Plays, but it's the one I was most interested in was Last Call. It might be they might
Last
have an
Call
like it might be
BBS.
like last yeah, they thank you. Okay. Yeah, Last Call BBS. And that was that was it. That was the last game that they did as a company, if I remember correctly. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that ended like they stopped making games after that.
Okay.
So if I'm wrong, then by all means, please let me know. But
I mean, I thought
uh,
this was a newer one. This Exapunks was a newer one, but
um, yeah, because I think that's part of like the I thought that was the whole point of like the tongue in cheek of um uh
Last
last
Call,
call being the last call. So
their last game, like Final Fantasy or whatever. Um,
yeah,
yeah,
it looks good. I mean, that one had an art style that I really liked. And no, like, but when it came to Exapump, it's essentially it's like code. It's like coding light game. It's like coding for beginners. You have to have a sequence of this and that kind of deal. And
yeah.
it's it's a very much, if you don't know anything about coding and if you don't care, then you're not going to like this game. It's like
Yeah.
you have to be willing to learn how you have to learn how to play the game. They give you the tools to learn how to play it, and that's all there is to it, is you have to take the time. Now, if you want something you can quick pick up play, this isn't for you.
Oh
This is gonna
no.
have
Oh no, this is
yeah.
not for you. I will say that like I did dabble in some coding, some Python back 5 or so years ago, and it was cool. It was really hard to get things to run, but it was cool to get stuff going. And this is definitely like a more interesting version like of that. You're not really doing anything. I mean, it's all already programmed into the game. Um, but it did give me that same feeling where it's like reading and then like checking and reading and checking. The music in this though, I did want to say is really good. It's a really good loop, and it's very, I don't know, like this kind of slow vibe. That's not that's not distracting at all. Um, and but yeah, you're right. Like if you're not into programming or things like programming, then this game will not be fun for you. And even if you are, like this is yeah, you're 100% right. This is not like a pick up and play on a Saturday afternoon. Like I don't feel like doing anything game. This is like I'm gonna zone in and be 100% in this game for a while.
Yeah, so Exapunks came out in 2018.
Oh, okay.
Um, so and it looks like they did come out with a solitaire game after Last Call. So
Okay.
Last Call came out in August of 2022, and it looks like according to Steam, September 6th is when they came out with the Zachtronics Solitaire Collection.
Mm. All right.
So yeah, uh, yeah, so I don't know what I was thinking when I thought it was supposed to be the last game, but maybe I just remember reading something long, back then. Uh,
I don't know.
but yeah, so that's I mean, but for sure, and I was right. It was Shenzhen was like the game before Opus Magnum, and both of those were just before. Um, I mean, they made Shenzhen Solitaire as well,
Yeah.
and so it's kind of
It
but yeah, then the Exapunk was the next big game after those.
it is definitely like an interesting. It's kind of sad that the studio's defunct now, but like it is definitely an interesting type of game that should exist. Um, I'm
I'm
sure
sure
that
they'll make other great things. It's just, I don't know. Maybe it'd be under a different name, or maybe I was just incorrect, and maybe they're still running strong.
who knows.
Because this is as of if they released last August, so
Mm,
it's
that's pretty recent.
still some they could still be having things down the pipeline. I mean, so we'll see. But no, I'm glad you're liking that game. It's just uh yeah, you're really into hard stuff right now. Like you like and plus anything with the word punk in it, it seems like to be your thing.
Yes, I am punk to my core. So that is definitely true. But yeah, like I'm not gonna play any more of this game. Like I kind of fired it up a little bit uh before the podcast, and I was like, I hadn't played it in a long time, and I was like, I don't remember it, and this is really hard. Um, so I'm not gonna play it anymore, especially because I've got other things to play too. But it was cool. It was cool once.
All right, that's cool. I'm glad to hear that. All right, well, all right. Now, I guess to what we've been watching. All right, so I'll quick start us off on. Uh, I've been watching the. I went ahead and they found out they dubbed uh the season one of the daily life of the Immortal King, and this one is a Chinese. I believe it's Chinese anime. I and it's like well, it's completely in Chinese, but I'm just not sure what studio, like where it's located exactly. Uh, and this was on Netflix for a while, and I was interested. I'm just like, I'm not gonna sit and read this. I just don't have the time. And then I found out it got dubbed, so I went ahead and just binge watched all of that, and it was like 15 episodes, I think. It was good. It's the I guess elevator pitch is kids have powers, essentially, like, they have different abilities and power levels, and this is all done in kind of a Chinese, the Chinese mythology art style. So they have, uh, if you've any watched any of the old Chinese kung fu movies or anything like that, you kind of have some of that concept. But essentially, it's kids go to school to hone their craft, and everyone excels in their own kind of abilities. And the main kid or the main character is he's just all powerful. That's all there is to it. He is completely god tier, incredibly strong, One Punch Man's like style, except for the fact that his parents have to they kind of nerf his ability, so therefore, but it also stunts his emotion, so he becomes very bland, and it's just it becomes a like a school slice of life kind of thing where the episodes it's chill, but there is kind of an overarching story, and I don't know. I found it enjoyable. There's at least there's at least a second season, and I think a third one on the way. Uh, and so I'm hoping those get dubbed as well. I mean, the main character, it really reminds me of a more action oriented, uh, the disastrous life of Psyche K, and that one is just a a comedy series. You can also watch that a little bit. Like I think season three is on Netflix, dubbed. They dubbed season one, hilarious and great. Season two came out, never got a dub, and then season three came out, and that one Netflix got a hold of. And I think it's voiced by different cast as well. So not only you have different voicing, but also you're skipping, like it's referring to things that happened in season two. So it was just like, I'm not gonna watch this. Um, so yeah, I don't know why. I don't know what the licensing issue or whatever was the problem with the second season. But that's a really funny series, Psyche K, and it's that one is very self aware. It's a gag manga, or so it's all about laughter and comedy. But that character is equally the all powerful kind, and except for he nerfs himself, and he just finds everyone annoying because he's psychic and he can read everyone's mind.
Uh,
While the main character of the Immortal King, he's just like I said, he's just super powerful and nothing can, phase him essentially. But it's a fun action thing. It has a I found the opening song, intro theme, tamer, whatever you want to call it. I found that to be enjoyable. It's like it's different. It has a little bit of dubstep, which I'm not really the big a fan of, but it was just like it was a fun opening tamer, and I'm like, okay. Uh, they do enough silly stuff, like they have a demon beast, essentially they call it Demon King, who's a giant frog, and it it eventually accidentally gets merged with like a dog spirit, and so you get this like Shiba Inu looking thing that is all green like a frog and has frog eyes, and so everyone dubs the dog Froggy 2. Uh, so that's literally its name, it's Froggy 2, because they know it's like the frog spirit from before. So like, yeah, it's Froggy 2. It's silly. I found it good though. Like I said, that's really it on that front. The other thing I watched, and I told you about it, and you ended up binge watching it in like 2 days, I guess. Um,
it was about 2 days. Yeah.
was Yeah. Romantic killer.
which
So
is a bit of a confusing name. I think it's more along the lines of romance killer, because whenever you told me romantic killer, I was like, is that like someone who is romantic and then kills or something? But anyway, go ahead and explain some of the premise.
yeah, because it's supposed to be romantic thriller, so they're playing on the words there, and it works better in Japanese a little bit,
Yeah.
because it's kira, um, but yeah, this one's all on Netflix, so you can easily watch it. And I ended up, yeah, it's essentially a girl who she has three loves. One is her video games,
Okay.
two is chocolate, and three, probably the most important, is her cat. Uh, and with those three things, she needs nothing else. She doesn't need friends. She doesn't need romance. She doesn't need anything. She just has those three, and she's happy with her life. Um, and essentially, little magical spirit thing comes out of the TV from and like says, "Hey, I'll give you that dating sim uh life, IRL." And uh but by the way, in order to make you play, I've now stripped you of all three things that you love. So if you want to get these things back, you have to fall in love with one of these main protagonist, just like a dating game. And she wholeheartedly hates this notion and will do everything she can to fight it. And that's where the killer comes involved, because it's supposed to be a romantic thriller. And then her brain's like, I'll be the romantic killer.
So she's trying to get so she's very against all this, like you said. And it's the premise in the first episode is really funny. The premise is pretty good. They do a good job of kind of setting it up and then introducing this magical. They don't ever say what it is, right?
They call themselves a wizard.
I know, but like that's like a job, not an animal, and it's some
Yeah,
kind of like pseudo round egg shaped bear colored thing. Um,
it's the magical girl. In any magical girl anime, it's their like familiar,
yeah,
essentially.
it's like a familiar in a weird way, and its name is Riri, um, which is fine. Um, and Riri's pretty funny. Riri does a pretty good job of being kind of ridiculous and having like all kinds of stuff. Like they pop up like when the game first starts. Riri shows the main girl Anzu. I think that's what they called her. It shows her like all this fine print in with Chinese characters, and Anzu was like what? Like I don't want to read all this, and so they kind of keep referring back to that where Riri is like, it was in the fine print, it was in the fine print, and Anzu just kind of keeps getting pissed off. But yeah, I like this. I thought it was pretty strong in the start, and the story got a little bit less strong to me as it went on. But like, what did you think about it as it went on?
Yeah, as a whole, it comes off interesting enough because the way the animation's done, they like to play around with the eyes. Everyone has either like they'll have either octagonal, hexagonal, or like cat-like pupils, and
Hmm.
they like to rotate that amongst the characters depending on the scene. Uh, they'll make the during certain gag moments, they'll make the person heavily outlined and
That was it.
almost paper cutout, like version of themselves. They do that on a number of occasions, or they'll make her or someone else. They'll make their facial expressions look super deformed and like overly masculine.
That
Uh,
was the funniest part. Was whenever, or one of the funnier parts, as the series goes, when when Anzu is being specifically like anti heroin, or like not the like she just doesn't want to be like a girly girl, uh and she does stuff, they redraw her to where it's the same it's the same it's the same like the same hair and the same clothes, but it's clearly like a very masculine man that's been redrawn.
I think it kind of makes reference in my brain to uh what they would do as Fist of the North Star or something like
Yeah,
that.
it's like that. And then she's got like these massive forearms and biceps and like the square jaw and like cleft chin and stuff like that. It's really funny. It's pretty hilarious whenever she shifts over to that. Because and then yeah, the outline, the strong outline drawings. I noticed that pretty early on. That's a really cool way to kind of turn it into, to I don't know, signify that this is a funny part. I don't know, to make them kind of really cut out and make them into a kind of a comic strip version of themselves.
Yeah, it's kind of like a weird like this is my awkward moment or something along those lines too. Like, but helps it like lessen the cringe factor. uh
Yeah.
no, the don't want to say too much without giving a lot of it away. But yeah, it's just there's a number of potential candidates, love interests that come into her life. Um I feel the candidate I'll just say without saying how many candidates there are, candidate 3. Uh yeah, I'll say yes and no to your hand gestures there.
Uh-huh.
But the but yeah, there's candidate 3 was the weakest. I
Yeah.
mean, that
Yeah.
person improved a bit, but at the same time, you can kind of claim that candidate 2 is pretty weak because there's a one trick pony. But I did like their story, and then there's a couple bits where uh, there is a heavy drama, like for 1 or 2 episodes. They don't really drag those drama scenes out too long, and different characters and different friends will have their own drama sequences as well. But it's not overly done, and that's actually at least refreshing. It doesn't drag the whole mood down too far, uh, and it's unique. It's just they do provide interesting backstories to side characters as well, not just necessarily the main.
Yeah, I was kind of impressed with some of the side characters that they went into depth on. There's some stuff around a karaoke scene where one of the side characters is kind of like majorly side. He's a very side character and not really relevant to.
Oh yeah, I think I know which one you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah, that guy is like, it's like it was just kind of like, so we're going into this guy's backstory now. All right, that's interesting. But it was interesting, and it wasn't belabored, and it didn't feel like it shouldn't be there or anything. I was actually kind of impressed at how well it fit in with the rest of what everything else was going on.
Yeah.
As far
Childhood. I will spoil this part. It's very minor, but it's and it's a side character. But like they confess their feelings, and then they come back to the like they go off. They were with a group of friends. This person goes to the side, confesses their feelings to Anzu. Anzu immediately shoots them down, just like hardcore,
like
just
before
straight
he
up no.
finishes, yeah.
Like yeah, he's like you listen, at least let me finish. Nope. And so then when he goes back to the group, the entire group of friends just like party poppers and like congratulations on getting your first love crushed. And
Yeah,
they're like
getting rejected. Yeah.
that was pretty good. It's and then some of the side characters I think are actually pretty well done. Love interest number 2, his classmates, they like to dig into him in a good way, and
Hmm.
I like the way they do that. Like it's just this whole bit about his lunch being made, and he's trying to write it off as like no, it's my sibling made this for me. And
Because it's all
it's
burned
like
and stuff.
yeah, it's just like, and they're like, you wouldn't be this happy if your sibling made this for you. And then he's just like, and then he ends up taking a photo for it. It's like, why are you taking a photo if your sibling made this? You don't like the person you love made this for you. We know you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's all right. They do kind of set it up. Yeah, the third dude is like, they could have come with that a little bit stronger. I didn't think I
So
didn't
his introduction is great.
his introduction is great, but as far as like
The rest of it, yeah.
the rest of him is like, I don't. This guy's definitely like the obvious like third fiddle. Um, and I didn't listen to that part in Japanese. I watched some of these episodes in Japanese, and it's well acted and stuff. I actually think that Riri might be better in Japanese, but anyway, it's not a thing. But this guy's English, the number three's English voice actor, just didn't fit to me, and just the personality in general wasn't all that great. But the other thing I wanted to say was this anime, it's set in a high school. It's set during high school, but almost everything about this anime feels like it wants to be in college or post college. Like, like the characters, they they all have to contrive ways to live alone, and get the parents out of there. And it's like everything that they do is like stuff that adults would do, and they're on their own and stuff like that a lot. And the school stuff just seems like it's in the way. To me, it seems like it should be everybody and they work at the same company. But I don't know. That just seems like it would have been an
See,
easier way to write it to me.
no, see, the thing is, I think you lose a big part of that, because the whole point and gag of the bit is anime characters have no families. That's just how it is. You never see their family. All the shit goes down in the house. Where are the parents at all times when this like when the harem situations are go on? You never see the parents.
I did
They
get that
might
that
as well.
was part of the gag to like get like Anzu's like it's ridiculous how Anzu's parents just like
Well,
leave the country in the
their
first
dad's like,
episode.
I'm on a bit. I just got transferred for work, and she's like, you work at the post office. Why are you getting transferred to America? You know,
Yeah, it makes no sense.
um, and so, but it's in order to get her. Realizes it's part of her living the quote unquote game, and she has to be alone. And then, uh, yeah, it's just it's
Yeah.
a silly way. Like that's how they swarm player number two, or boy number two into the house because of reasons, and that's like character one has their reasons, and that flushes out their backstory.
I guess
Once again, anime protagonists always have to be
that
essentially almost always be alone.
they do a good job of turning that into it, like turning the contrivances into a joke. But I just felt like there were still a lot of points where it's like this show it wants to be more adult than it wants to be more adult than it is. Um, and I was kind of I don't know. That's just something that I thought as I was watching it. Not necessarily like something that I would like that I would fight for exactly, but that's just the feeling I got. Still, though, especially when it gets serious, like when it gets kind of serious toward the end, there, I was kind of like, this show really wants to be more serious than it's even able to be right now, kind of because of the situation. But I don't know. Will this show get a season two, or it seemed like they left
Not that
it?
I'm aware of. It ends with a clear like open door for a season two. But honestly, if it never got a season two, it would be fine enough. Like they
Yeah,
conclude a lot of the major arcs, and there's not there's a want for more, but there's not necessarily a need. It's not like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? I mean, but they clearly set it up, um, you know, for the second part. One
yeah,
of the
like
things is I'll mention though too is the whenever they mention about like how this is in relation to a romantic dating sim, they use the best worst character models from like
oh
a
yeah,
janky ass PS2
I
graphics
forgot
game,
about that part.
because they always show like a prince, like like if you see this girl surrounded by different guys, they're just these scrawny, deformed, super deformed, lanky PS2 character models that are supposed to be representing
Oh man.
the the guy and girl in a love scenario of one sort or another, and
I don't know how
it's
they
great.
designed those. Those are just they're so horrible and perfect all at once. Yeah, that when I first saw that I was like, okay, yeah, these people went next level because they're like full CG, they're like full, computer generated models. And they look so stupid, but so perfect for the thing that they're trying to get across. Yeah, yeah. Anyways, but yeah, you were saying like the how it ends is leaves it open. I think it was like that last scene or one of the very close last scenes is like, I'm not gonna say what it is, but it is like a very like, oh well, that is something that is definitely could change the game very much if they ever do a second season. Which I looked it up, and I think there's 4 volumes of this anime. So sorry, 4 volumes of the manga for this anime, which is not all that much. So I kind of wonder how much, if a season 2 would actually finish up everything that there is, or I don't know if it's ongoing or anything. But anyway, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, it was very unexpected. I had no idea, um, and so it was just a pleasant surprise to come across. I gave it a shot. I'm like, and then yeah, I ended up just watching the whole thing in the course of like a week. Um, all
Yep,
right,
pretty
and
good.
on that note, there's only one other thing I've really been worth mentioning, and I was happy that it finally got dubbed. But it's essentially it's Welcome to Demon School, or Iruma-kun. So this is season 3, and I really like season 1 and 2. It's a fun, just it's a comedy. It's just kind of like a warm anime. It's not really there's now not a lot of high drama. It's funny, it's entertaining. Uh, though unfortunately, one of the voice actors is no longer with us. So if you the Billy Kometz, um, otherwise known as like the Shield Hero, unfortunately he had passed away earlier this year,
Mhm.
and so having season 3, he voices Asmodeus, and it's I don't know who does the voicing of him now, but unfortunately it's just yeah, it's most definitely a loss there. You can tell that there is this person is just kind of trying to mimic the voice, but doesn't have it falls a little flat. It doesn't doesn't have a lot of those high notes, and it misses a lot of this punchiness. It is just someone trying to do an impersonation essentially and try to come close, and they kind of come close to sounding, but because they're missing, you know, it's yeah, it's a tough situation when you have to replace somebody.
Yeah,
Um,
I wonder if that's a
and so
director issue. If the director's like, well, sound like him. It's like, no, dude, you got to bring somebody in and they got to give you their best. And yeah, it's gonna be weird, and the people who are watching is gonna go, well, that sounds different. It's like, well, yeah, but the guy passed away, so this is what we have, and he's a. You got to let the voice actor interpret it on their own. You can't mimic somebody else.
yeah, it's a tough task to be in because, it's like how much do you pay homage to what it is or what it was, and but then how much do you make of it as your own? If you come in too different, no one's good. Everyone's just gonna hate it. Like, you come in and you change them to like a southern draw, then they're like, everyone's gonna riot. So, but granted, it's just I feel overall they do a good job, trying to sound like it. It's just but there is just not as much, yeah, there's just the key like, around the edges, it's just a little flat, it's like there's not enough life into that character.
It's too
So
bad.
yeah, it's just unfortunately just another, it's a sad thing, but yeah, I didn't like I said, I didn't realize they had passed away until I started watching Shield Hero season 2,
Yeah.
and I just never finished season 2 of Shield Hero. I just watched, like, the first couple episodes, and I just couldn't get into it.
I think I got to like episode 5 or 6, and I was like, no, I'm not. I just it ended up devolving into a different kind of show than the first season's premise was based on. Even the first season kind of devolved into just another kind of shonen thing. Um, and season 2 got even into more into that. The stuff about the Shield Hero kind of rising, or like the kind of tough times that he has, is sort of the point to me. And then season 2, it kind of blows a lot of that away. So Yeah, but it's really sad that that guy passed away, and that this show, Welcome to Demon School, is
Yeah, Iruma-kun, yeah. Like I said, he's one of the main best friends, so he's a very prominent character. Um, but I mean, Kometz, he like as good of a voice actor as he was, ended up winning for Shield Hero actually. Crunchyroll, had like an award for best voice actor, and he won that. So for his role as was that Naofumi?
yeah, no for me.
Uh, so I mean, he's very talented, and it was just sad to see him go so early.
Yeah,
It's colon cancer. So, uh, yeah, unfortunately, hate to bring it down on that note, but it's Iruma-kun is worth a watch. I still recommend it, and most definitely check out uh, Billy's previous works because they're pretty solid. So,
yeah, yeah.
anything else you anything else you got to watch?
I mean, I did just finish watching before the podcast on Netflix, All Quiet on the Western Front. It's a German film. Just came out a few weeks ago. Wasn't there an
It's
all?
based off the old book.
So wasn't there another? Wasn't there an All Quiet on the Western Front came out like decades ago? Isn't
Yeah,
that
it's all based off an old book.
okay?
Super old book.
I could have sworn that the first one was about the the uh it's not really Axis and Allies because World War One, but about the British American side. Um, but anyway, this is pretty good. It's about Germany in World War One, and it's about the end of the war, and it's a
okay, it's over there. I have a copy of it back there that I've. It was yeah, it used to be mandatory reading for us back in early middle school.
okay.
So
Well, anyway, this movie, they spent a lot of money on it. It looks really good. It's definitely a high budget film, uh, and it's just about the horrors of war and how dumb war is, especially World War One. Man, like you can really put World War One up there anytime you want to talk about the stupidity of the stuff that happens in war, which is a big long conversation. But this movie really highlights that and kind of shows um, just shows that in a really kind of punishing way, and how it goes. It's like a 2.5 hour movie. Um, I was kind of surprised it was all in German, but it's all in German. They do offer uh, a British English dub. Um, that's how it started, and I was like, oh, I want to watch this and actually watch this in German. So I did. But there's different options there. But yeah, if you want to watch a sad movie about World War One, um, then All Quiet on the Western Front is definitely something you can watch on Netflix. Looks like we're getting some things added to the docket here in the last second. You got
well,
something else for
I
us,
was just
Joe?
making sure to mention that we list All Quiet on the Western Front, and then yeah, I forgot to I mentioned to you before we recorded, but the Simpsons, the Treehouse of Horrors, uh, they ended up making a Death Note episode, or Death Tome, as they call it in this one. It's so what makes this unique is it's not just spoofing Death Note, but they completely draw the characters in an anime style. I'm not 100% sure, but I would be confident to say that like the guys who made the Boondocks is in like that kind of art style.
Yeah,
So it's like quasi anime, really crisp, good looking art style. And so like Lisa and the rest of them, they're all appropriately, they're no longer yellow, essentially is what they are. Uh, but it is very good reference material, and it's stupid. And I enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was just a little short episode 2 of the 3 episodes for the Treehouse of Horrors, and If you get a chance to, and if you like Death Note, and you want to see a good like little parody on it, doesn't take very long. I'd say give it a watch.
Yeah, I definitely plan on watching this. Here, just a minute. We were talking about it before, and it sounds Simpsons has not been interesting to me in a long time, but this sounds like it might be right up my alley, and pretty hilarious. So I want to try it out. But yeah, anyway, so I think that's all that I've got.
Yep, likewise, man. That is it. So we'd just like to thank you guys for sticking with us. Once again, this is episode 30 of Another Dead Pixel. We are recording this a little earlier than normal. It's on a Thursday this time around, the 11th, or no, 11, I'm sorry, November 3rd. And yeah, I hope you guys have a good one. And until next time, take it easy.
All right, see you later.
4.